Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're doing another power rankings type thing, except there wasn't really a big event last week, so power rankings seems kind of irrelevant. There might be a couple of shifts, but we'll work on that next week after the Idlewild Open. What I wanted to talk about this week is prestigious events, because something that comes up a lot around USDGC and Worlds is people always say, oh, which one is more prestigious? Is it USDGC or Worlds? Or I think USDGC should be more prestigious because it's always at the same course or stuff like that. And those people are wrong, and so we're all going to explain why.
Okay.
I have with me Anthony and Robert. Anthony
Yes.
Van Heel, Robert McCall, thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Let's so the idea is to rank the events as far as most prestigious. Why is Worlds the most prestigious event?
Anthony, go for it.
I mean, I think it's, for one, it has the title of World Championship, right, which carries weight, even if you were to just throw it on a small C tier. But also, I think because back in the day when it was 7 rounds, 8 rounds, final 9, it was like, the best player won it every time.
It was a marathon, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, okay, you can't shoot hot for 1 round and then carry that for the next 2 rounds. Like, you have to shoot hot over and over and over again. Like, the best player is going to win. And so I mean, it still has that. It was 5 rounds last year, 4 rounds last year.
4.
4, yeah, and most tournaments are either 3 or 4, so it's not what it used to be. But yeah, I think just the history of it, the fact of it used to be such a marathon, and it's like that's the one that the best players in the world always show up for.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone is like, okay, all the European players are like, okay, well, let's bring our US tour around Worlds. Let's base it around that so that we can play that. That's one that everybody goes to. It's the biggest event, for good reason. Yeah.
So someone asked in chat about prize pool, which one wins more money, which is a good argument.
Sure.
But it depends on whether you're talking about the prize pool for the event or the bonuses and stuff that you get from sponsors as a result of winning it, or the fact that people will call you as the X-time world champion at every tournament for the rest of your life.
Right.
And
everybody knows it. Go ahead.
Ledgestone technically does have the biggest payout, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think they still do.
Yeah, but I mean, Worlds has got a pretty respectable payout. How does it compare to USDGC?
It's usually about the same, if not a little bit bigger.
Okay. So
but there was years in the past where like USDGC was $15K for the winner. I think the first time Shoestrick won it was $15,000, and I think that was bigger than Worlds that year.
Okay.
But like, all right, so this is what it comes down to for me is when you talk about people's names in disc golf, we don't often say US championships before we say world championships, right? So like if somebody's won a Worlds and a USDGC, we almost always say Worlds first. So like Climo's a 12-time world champion, MPO, 12-time world champion, but I think he's a 5-time US champion. But we don't usually say that.
But the thing right there, even you just said he's a 12-time world champion, I think 5-time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I was just going to say, I couldn't tell you how many times he's won it, but I know off the top of my head how many world championships he has.
Yeah. Same goes for Macbeth. I mean, Macbeth's a 5-time world champion and a 2-time US champion, right? Yeah. So I don't know. For me, I think Worlds holds the most weight, not because the course is always the most difficult or anything like that. It's because everyone knows that it's the most.
Yeah. It's almost like a cultural thing.
Everyone agrees this is the one. Now, having that said, like they're both majors. It's like in golf, if you win the U.S. Open or the Masters, people will argue over which is better to win. And there's arguments to be made for both. A lot of times in disc golf, people argue, like the people who are most vocal are the people who have won one and not the other.
Yeah.
So like, which I get. I mean, I would be too. If I'd won either of them, I'd be like, yeah, that's the best one to win. It's for sure the hardest to win.
Yeah. Right. Obviously, naturally.
That's where I'm at. But I say Worlds and USDGC are the 2 top majors, and any other major after that, yeah, it's a major, but it's not like those 2.
So you think European Open is the one that falls after that?
Yeah, I was just thinking like, what's third, right? Because that's easily 1A, 2, whatever you want to call it. But like, what's third?
I think off the top of my head, European Open.
That's what I
Yeah.
would say.
Dust brings up a good point. Dust is actually, if you guys don't know, he's a commentator for CS:GO.
Oh, what's up?
Yeah,
Cool.
so he's, he knows what he's talking about from like a competitive and broadcast standpoint, stuff like that.
Sure.
He says, for me, prestige would be based on the strength of the field, prize money, course difficulty, amount of rounds played, weather conditions, and the label. I think Worlds has all of those, especially strength of the field. Everyone shows up to Worlds,
Yeah.
right? And then course difficulty. Usually they pick a pretty difficult course. I don't know how the courses play in Utah, where it was going to be this year and where it, I guess, will be next year. But in the past, they've had a good round, I guess, a good selection of courses.
Right.
Weather conditions is finicky. Let's argue
Yeah.
for USDGC for a second, because we've talked a lot about Worlds. Like, what makes USDGC that much more prestigious?
I mean, the biggest thing about USDGC is the course, right? It's always on the same course every single time. It's always Winthrop Gold. It's always roped up, and it's a little bit different every year, but for the most part, like the general feel is really similar.
It's widely
And
regarded as one of the most difficult courses on tour, isn't it?
in general, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. And like I had the privilege of playing it a couple of years ago because Doug got a sponsor exemption and couldn't go play it. So I got to go play.
Sick.
And yeah, it was so sick. Driving onto that course is different than driving onto any other course that I've done. Like it's just like you're driving into history because it's there every single year. So the prestige of that place specifically, like it has a certain air about it that is just
Yeah.
really cool. And I don't know, I really like disc golf. I feel like I know a decent bit about disc golf and have been to a lot of different places, but that's the coolest disc golf course and disc golf experience that I've had, bar none. It's
Yeah.
just it's so freaking cool.
I feel like going there, I've never been, but I feel like going there, the way I picture it in my head is like it would be like you're playing disc golf in a disc golf museum.
Yes.
Because like you step on hole one and you're like, oh man, I remember that one time where it was a playoff and Will Schuster parked this hole, and then you have to throw that shot. And then you
Mhm.
get to hole two and you're like, oh, I remember all the times where people would throw a roller here, and like I know this and that, and it's like having it at the same place definitely builds that history and builds the character, I guess,
Yeah.
for lack of a better
And
word,
people
of the
know that. Like when
course,
you said hole one, I immediately could picture. I bet you
right?
a large number of people could picture exactly what hole that is, or hole two,
Right.
or you talk
I mean,
about hole
hole
seven.
17
Yeah.
is like one of the most iconic holes,
Yeah.
bar none.
You talk about 888. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that hole 17 is the perfect example. Like that hole has been the same or at least similar for a long time. And I've said it on the podcast a lot, but like until you've stood on that tee with something on the line, you haven't felt what nerves are like in disc golf. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But it's so cool. Like I understand because before I thought, man, you could just throw, your easy turnover putter or your forehand, you play to the fat part of the island, and then you take your three and move on. But it's just not that easy. It's rarely like there's rarely no wind, and the landing zone is quite a bit below your feet. And I'm just saying, like, it's terrifying.
Okay.
And it was awesome.
Two more things about USDGC. People have said that the course is gimmicky and it feels like weird to watch because it doesn't feel like disc golf. Do you think that's a deliberate design or just a product of the land that they have?
I think it's a product of the land. Because if there is no roped OB, I mean, it only plays around water for so many holes. So holes like, let me think, 6 is the beach hole, 7 is the bamboo par 3, 8's that par 4, 9's the one where they always have like 2 islands or something like that. And if that was wide open, then everybody would 3 it all the time. Same with hole 10, like some people would 2 it, but everybody would 3 it. Same with hole 11.
Yeah.
Hole 11 would be a really easy 3 if there was no rope. So I think it's a product of the land that they have to deal with there.
The other thing was, if Worlds was played, would you prefer it if Worlds was played on the same course every year?
I like having variety personally, having one that's played on the same course every year and one that's not. So,
Yeah.
I mean, switch them around. I don't really care which, but I like having that variety for sure.
I do.
If we had worlds at the same spot every year, where would it be?
My gut is Appling. at the PDGA headquarters, because that's where they did the first one when they changed how many rounds it was, and they did it that at the, I think Steady Ed was the course, and then at that Fort Gordon, I want to say was the name.
Yeah, that
Gordon?
sounds right.
Gordon.
Yeah. So if it was up to me, I think the fairest test across the board is Smuggler's Notch in Vermont.
That's
One
what I've
wooded
heard.
course,
That's a
one
good-
more open course. I mean, it's not. Oh, there's lots of OB, but there's not one particular skill set that dominates there because of the design. It's just a really fair and difficult design.
Yeah, plus page one. That'd be cool if she just did that again.
Hey,
Hey. Okay. Okay. I think we've covered Worlds and USDGC pretty well.
yeah.
Well, what do we think about like how heavily do we weigh prize money? Because I've seen people talking about Ledgestone having the most prize money.
Mhm.
Dust said something about, what did he say? Prize money would factor into prestige. Like, why is it that? Because when we think about other things like esports or this or that, it's always $10 million prize pool or whatever.
Yeah.
So how come Ledgestone having the biggest doesn't make that like easily third or top three?
It's a good question.
That's a good question. I think it's just because of the title of Worlds. I think you could not have a prize pool. It'd be trophy only, and people would still compete just as hard for the World Championships.
Sure.
But that's
Yeah.
just a cultural thing in disc golf.
Right, because the ancillary benefits that come from winning worlds are often beyond the prize pool of winning worlds.
That's a good point
Yeah.
too. Usually
Yeah.
for winning Worlds, you get a signature disc or a signature mold, which is like a disc from the manufacturer that sponsors you with your name on it, and you get some amount for every single disc of that disc that's sold.
Right, and then promotion for a year to go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you sell your own fundraisers a lot more as a result. Yeah.
Yeah, you're on the PDGA website.
Right.
Yeah.
You get to say, I mean, with Eric McCabe, everybody knows he's the 2010 world champion.
Mm-hmm.
Who won USDGC that year? Who won?
Will Schuster.
Name any
Yeah.
major.
Also, it was Nico that won $15,000.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, that would have been 08 or 09.
I have it literally right here and I can't find it.
Nine.
09.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. What would be number 3? We kind of talked about this briefly, but we didn't really go into it. Personally, I think European Open sticks out to me as a number 3 because it's like the USDGC but of Europe, which is a smaller population of disc golfers. I think if it was, I don't know. I was gonna say if they had as many people playing over there, then it would be just as prestigious. But I don't know. What do you think?
I'm in on European Open being the third for sure, because the others are like Australian Open. It's just so much more difficult for more people to get to Australia. That course is, I don't think it's as difficult as the ones that Worlds are usually contested. Worlds is usually contested on, or DGC or European Open. So I think European Open wins it in a landslide personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. And do majors rotate at all? Is it the same? What else? I mean,
European Open is every other year.
yeah.
So
I think that's why it's kind of like, well, I guess it would be European Open. If the European Open was every year, I think that would be a shoe-in for third.
Yeah. Well, what's the other big tournament overseas? There's like the
European Masters or something. I don't remember.
there's the Konopiste Open, which is on that sick course, but I don't think that's close.
Yeah.
There was
They used to do, what was it, President's Cup or President's something?
That was
right?
before European Open. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there was another big European tournament. Anyway,
They still do President's Cup, by the way, before
Yeah.
the European Open.
that's like a team event though. It's like US versus Europe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
So
It's like Ryder
majors
Cup.
majors for 2021, all of there are majors that are not just MPO majors. So United States Women Championships is a major, United States Amateurs as a major. As far as MPO focused majors for 2021, we have the Professional World Championships, the European Open, and USDGC.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
So that's it.
The
Yeah.
Australian Open is a major when it's isn't it?
Yeah, when it's happening.
When it's
Yep.
happening. Yeah,
Wasn't
I love
Japan
watching
a
that.
major too?
Yeah, that hasn't
Yep.
happened in a hot minute though.
Uh-uh.
No, several years since then. And it's tough because people always ask, like, why don't we have, if it's called the World Championships, why don't we have it somewhere other than the United States? I think it's been in Canada one time, maybe. But
Yeah.
the easy answer to that for me is like the world's best disc golfers are in the United States. It's not and the largest population as well. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a ton of disc golfers in Finland and Sweden and Europe, like a ton.
Mhm.
But there are more disc golfers here, and the top disc golfers in the world are in the United States.
I would love to
So
see a major overseas or
I'd
a
be all about
worlds.
it. If we were in a spot where world travel was more within the realm of reason financially for these players, we'd see a lot more
Mhm.
majors over there. I think that's the limiting factor right now.
People in chat are
Yeah.
telling me Japan is happening next year. At pdga.com/major disc golf events. It doesn't have it listed, but that might I might just be on like an
Maybe-
old blog or something.
Maybe it got pushed back to 2022 because I know they kind of just
Maybe.
shifted
Maybe
stuff.
so.
Yeah, I know they pushed some of them back. Okay, so kind of the tier below majors is National Tour.
And Pro Tour for me.
And yeah, Pro Tour's been getting up there. Is it kind of just a grab bag below that, or what do you think is the top NT that could have maybe have a shot at being a major in the future? I think the
sheer size wise, GBO.
Yeah, the two that jumped into my mind immediately, well, I guess three would be GBO, Beaver State, and Masters Cup. Are kind of the three for me.
Masters Cup always happens at that.
De La Viega.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, at that old course over there, nobody cares about. Not everybody takes a video of top of the world, but no. Yeah, that's a good point. Again, that's another one that's always at the same course, which is interesting. Well, I guess they've added the golf course in recent years.
Sure.
And I guess GBO is kind of the same thing too, where, I mean, it's going to be at the country club every year. We were going to add Jones Gold, but we're not taking it away from the country club.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, the GBO has the players, right? As far as people coming, and it has the amateur side and everything like that. I don't know that it has the feel of a major. It feels more like a party. It feels like, I always tell people tournaments are more like disc golf parties than you realize, right? Like in general, but GBO even more so. I wonder if it feels that way because it's so focused on the AM side.
Yeah, that could be the case. I don't know. I mean, another one, like where it would be awesome to have Worlds one year would be at Maple Hill.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Super cool course, like one of my favorites that I've ever seen. And that event is, one of those top tier non-majors.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's even more of a disc golf party than probably GBO is. It's just, well, maybe not even more, but there's just people all around all the time.
Yeah.
At MVP.
I believe it. I've never been up there. I've heard good things about it, of course.
Yeah.
Well,
it's cool.
Well, all right. I think we've covered the topic pretty well.
Nice.
Let us know down in the comments what, or Twitch chat as well, what event you would like to see come up and do come up to either raise a tier and become an NT or raise a tier and become a major, something like that. And what event you're most looking forward to in 2021, because I feel like that's it's going to come back with a fire in 2021. It's going to be sick.
It's true.
But yeah, I guess thanks for watching. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
Always remember, slow is smooth and smooth is far.